right, we now move on to the next portion of the show. Obviously, based on that music, it's the clown show portion of the show.
When last we left Wappinger Falls, old Widow Trudel was busy baking cookies while Mr. Trudel was fiddling in the corn shed with the maid.
Or something like that is exactly what transpired on pay-per-view. Jim, let's talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2025. They certainly, on commentary, were making out like this is their big event. I always think All In or All Out is the big one, but I guess this is their big one. And it happened.
Aren't they all the big ones? They're the long ones. They got to be the big ones too.
Well, what they don't have in girth, they make up for in length.
Well, and sometimes that can be painful. And boy, howdy, that prophecy came true here. My God, as we were talking about the Saturday night's main event, boy, it would have been nice to see a couple more minutes of a few of those matches that we, between commercial breaks and time constraints, only a 2-hour program. We got like 6 minutes of match. Over here, they got no shortage of the matches. This pay-per-view, and you say it's their big one. Again, Memorial Day weekend is how they've chosen their big one. And they're still on the gambling motif, regardless of what location that they're in, whether it's casino oriented or not. But 4.5 hours on the official pay-per-view. And then the countdown show, as it's listed on my cable provider, boy, there's 0 hour, whatever. There's another 1.5 hours. They only had 2 matches this time. Sometimes they've had 4.
You didn't see any of the pre-show?
No, I've got the results here.
No, but did you see any of it?
I did not see any of it because I've got the results.
Well, beyond the results, there was one moment I have to mention. So, it's hosted by RJ City, Renee Paquette, and Jeff Jarrett. And,
good Lord.
That's Jeff's role now. He didn't get his retirement match, so instead he's doing the pre-show. He's one of 3. And as this triad is talking about the night's events, in between video packages and stuff, all of a sudden they're joined by Lance Archer, the big bad heel from the Don Callis family. And then he just starts doing a preview for the pay-per-view. I wanted you to see just that one thing because I found it so funny because, he's big and mean, but then he's just like, and that should be a big bad match. He just starts talking about the pay-per-view like they are.
Well, and let's analyze these contests, Renee.
And he wasn't bad, other than the fact he's 7 feet tall, so it kind of throws off the camera has to move back a little. He wasn't bad.
Well, on the pre-show, Harley Cameron and Anna Jay beat Megan Brain and Penelope Pitstop. And then I wanted to have time to go back and watch this one, Brian. Apparently, AR Fox, Commander, Hologram, and Bandito took the measure of Trent, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Rocky Romero. Just to get people warmed up into the mood to see the 11 matches they're going to see on the pay-per-view. And did I mention it was 4.5 hours long, the pay-per-view. Every match was like they were stalling for time until the next match got there in the bad weather. Nothing can end
funny.
Anything.
That's funny.
Well, no. Think about it. That's the only time I would ever encounter a situation like this where you made your show go 4.5 hours on fucking purpose.
Is it just me or is this Jim Powers match 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think you know what? At the Super Bowl of Wrestling in Knoxville, I think we went 4 hours because I couldn't get anybody to goddamn calm down because the place was packed. But nevertheless, they were in Glendale, Arizona. I guess that's outer Phoenix. And Brad, the theme of this show, to me, to be quite honest with you, was jackass wrestling. not a description of I'm talking the television show. The childishness
Not
of
the animal.
it, what would stupid people do on video to get on Jackass or Ridiculousness or TikTok or whatever the kids are on these days doing stupid things? You go from the wrestling that is obviously making money hand over fist, but also is so produced and professional and homogenized and time to where you get to see everything but the fucking wrestling with all the stars that know what they're doing. Or you come over here to mostly indie-minded guys are going to do the indie-minded things, and there's no control over the show whatsoever from corporate, so you've got complete anarchy, literally, which is why they're making jokes about it, where these guys are just allowed to go out and do every goddamn thing that's ever been done in a fucking ring endlessly for as long as they want, and everybody gets to be the star of the show, which means there ain't no fucking stars. And by the time the shit that you actually sold people a ticket to maybe see happens, they've seen so much other shit go on that they just want to get out of there and get home and fucking take these goddamn tight fucking underwear off.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it there really was. Sometimes you see stuff, and if it's like by an account that typically is just making fun of AEW, sometimes you think, okay, maybe this is not the genuine artifact. But there was a lot of footage of people after the Anarchy match, before the main event of the show, the Owen Hart tournament final, just leaving. I don't know if everyone was just going to the bathroom because the experience they just went through.
Because they had an upset stomach. Well, no, after the Anarchy match, I wanted to leave and I was in my house.
I was pretty tired by that point.
So
there was no coming back at that point.
But it's just so much. So point being, they started out with something that we could ease into because it didn't take much of our time. The Owen Hart Tournament Ladies Division Final with Mercedes Moon against Jamie Hayter. And it looked like an emaciated stripper fighting a kid's birthday clown. And I'm sorry, but I knew we had a long road to hoe, and I wasn't going to watch. I'm not even going to make a fucking pun. But I wasn't going to watch either one of these two when we had 4 hours of this shit to go. But I'll tell you, Brian, I stopped the fast forward twice, and every time one of these two was either potatoing the other one or landing on their head. And that's what the finish was. They went 22 minutes, bell to bell, on a show that was going to be 4 hours long plus. It's ridiculous that there's no more structure or professionalism put in place. But Mercedes, after they'd done every goddamn thing you could do, she small packaged her and super DDT'd her with a speed. This is the first time I've ever seen an attempted small package nearly lead to the end of a career. She just drove her down right on top of her fucking head. Boom, 1, 2, 3. I'm sure could have probably counted to 12. If it'd been me, I'd just be like, fuck, get the fuck off me. Did you see that small package?
Oh, I did. That was one of several spots that looked incredibly dangerous or close to dangerous over the last few days. I know you haven't seen Raw yet, but there's a spot with Chad Gable in that three-way match where it looked like he came as close as you can get to getting spiked on your head. Yeah, I saw it here. And this went a while, this match.
Yes. 22 minutes. I counted. And Josephine Camel wins with the small package. But that's otherwise than that.
Owen Hart tournament winner.
Manelli.
She's now the Owen Hart tournament winner.
Well, and that is expected because the match that they apparently have that they think is their golden goose of the women's division is her and Tony Storm, right?
That's
So
all in.
somehow they're
That's the match happening at Texas. Yeah.
yes. So that's what's going to happen. But I hope she doesn't fucking small package Tony Storm like that. For heaven's sake, Luther will need to be an orthopedic surgeon. He's a brain surgeon already, but I don't know about the other.
Who do you put over in that match?
Oh God.
In terms of importance to AEW, not necessarily expense to AEW, who do you put
Tony
over?
Storm? The people sit and in some cases, the closer she is to Boston, they politely tolerate her. But they sit on their hands when this, again, self-indulgent, insufferably egotistical fucking Mercedes Moon is inflicted on them for all this length of time. They like Tony Storm. I think it's fucking goofy as shit, but they like Tony Storm. I would obviously put Tony Storm or anybody else right now over Mercedes.
All right, well, that took a turn. Just anyone can go over her now.
Or just anybody. Just beat her. Just beat her.
Well, I'm sure this kind of negative coverage.
Whip him like a dog.
As David Crockett would say. That's right.
Yes, as David Crockett would say it, a Monet mag is a rag. How about that? It was written as a gag.
You know, everyone makes fun of that line from David Crockett. It's you he's talking about, right? You're the one
yes, yes. Yeah. Whip him like a dog.
He got excited. Whip him like a dog.
That could be, that line could be, and by the way, that's from Superstars on the Superstation, the TBS special in 1986, but it could be superimposed over some type of German porn and get a whole new fucking thing going on. Well, we didn't get to watch German porn next. We got to watch FTR against Danny Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. And again, if this wasn't a 4-hour show, I would have paid more close attention to this because I did think going in, it could be the only decent wrestling match tonight, except for Garcia's involvement. But again, this is more about what they're not doing than what they did. FTR's got Stokely, Garcia, and Nigel have Daddy Mac. That fat-faced fuck. It's such a waste of FTR. They're wrestling. They've got a manager that hasn't been proven to be affiliated with any main event talent in the past. I know everybody's got to start somewhere, but you would hope that the guy that the starting manager got, or the team or whatever, the entity that the manager got put with would be the thing to elevate him, but they're trying to rehabilitate FTR, who have been so misused and marginalized and just negligent. And they're wrestling Danny Garcia just because he's got nothing better to fucking do. And they still haven't figured out that ain't never going to fucking happen. Garcia is in no way ever a money fucking guy. He's not a legitimate main event talent. And all of the guys working with him, it's ridiculous. And like he's at the level of that. Nigel is a better fucking worker than Garcia, but he's a fucking announcer and has had like 2 matches in the last 15 years. And they've done an angle like that. Yes, I could understand if this was the days of some territory where the beloved, Lord Layton in Detroit for the Sheik came off the commentary desk to get back in the ring because he was such a big star. FTR is one of 2 tag teams on the roster that could perform in a main event setting. And they're doing this, and they're like the Hurt Syndicate, where they have no opponents that would mean anything in a money match. So they, fucking come up with this shit. And if it had been a TV match for 8 to 10 minutes, there you go. But 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And Again, they had not, Tony come in. No, I'm sorry, it was 22 minutes now that I'm checking my notes. But they've got Tony awkwardly trying to check on Nigel on the floor, and FTR is trying to bully him, but Tony looks like he doesn't know what to do because he doesn't know what to do. And Garcia fought both FTR members in an awkward way, but then they grabbed him and Dax pile drove him and got a 2 count. And then they spike pile drove him and got a 2 count where he got his foot on the ropes. Why do they do pile drivers? You're pile driving the fucking stack of dimes neck fucking blase mid-card guy multiple times to get 2 counts. And then they get the sharpshooter on Garcia, and Cash kept Fat Face and Nigel out, or Nigel was already on the floor. But Dax had to hold on to this forever until the referee rang the bell. So they'd done all this fucking up and down stuff throughout the match. And then they finally, after going 22 minutes with an announcer and a middle card guy, they do a stationary finish where pile drivers can't stop him, but a glorified Boston Crab. Why did they just beat him with a spike pile driver? Then he's got an out. And then it was more exciting than what they got. Help me understand this.
I can't understand it. I don't understand why it went so long. I don't understand why they keep trying to elevate Garcia when it ain't going to work. Someone wrote in because now he's wearing like yellow trunks and red boots. What's this guy's name? Let's give him credit. Sean from New York. They should call him Sulk Hogan. Not bad.
But I mean, how did it even help him to yeah, I kicked out of the spike pile driver, but then the fucking sharpshooter. I was just, oh my gosh. I laid here for a minute and finally referee said, well, he ain't going to do shit.
Because there's no supervision. Who's supervising all this? Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the booking of all this? Who's the one saying what's going on? That's the person at fault. This is just none of it. And FTR, like you said with Stokely, how many start and stops has Stokely gotten in NXT and now here? Where it's like, okay, this guy seems to have a rap. All right, and now he's kind of a joke character. And now he's gone. Oh, now he's here again. And now he's managing women. And he's got some jokes, some witty line, and now he's gone. And now he's with FTR. It's a new thing. But it's a new heel thing. You don't have new baby faces to work with. And quite frankly, mid-card Daniel Garcia and Nigel, who, like you said, really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't done anything in 15 years other than 2 matches. It went forever. There was no reason for it to. The finish made no sense.
Well, speaking of things that don't make a lot of sense, they had a stretcher match between Ricochet and Mark Briscoe. And the reason why that we were subjected to the stretcher match apparently is because, I think I told you this on the last show, but it was revealed on the internet that the first ECW show that Tony Khan went to, or the first one he went to in Philadelphia or whatever, there was a stretcher match on the card. So he knew, right? He had to have a stretcher match. The Mark Booker saw one when he was a kid. So let's have a stretcher match with large amounts of blood, and they're not going to use the ring at all on the undercard of a fucking 10 or 12 man conglomeration clusterfuck match where they don't use the ring at all. What the fuck is wrong with these people? It's the ambulance was in the back of the arena. The stretcher was a gurney with wheels like that the fire department would have. And Ricochet again jump-started it, and Mark Briscoe fought back, and they went up the ramp and fought to the ambulance. And then they fought at ringside. And then Mark did an elbow off the apron onto the stretcher, and he used a chair on him multiple times and pulled out a table. It was 5 minutes in. And I wrote, they haven't stepped foot in the fucking ring yet. But then Ricochet, with a heel move, he pushed it back underneath they have a goddamn garbage match later. So they're having a 2-man garbage match before they have the 10-man garbage match. And I wrote still fighting on the floor. At 7 minutes into this match, they got in the ring with Mark Briscoe bringing in a bucket of spray cleaner, and he got Ricochet in a headlock, sprayed his head with Windex and shined it with a cloth, and then hit him with the bucket. And then they got back out of the ring. And I started fast forwarding at that point because it's just, they went back to the fucking ambulance. Mark Briscoe was bleeding buckets. I don't know what they attributed it to, but he did the fire extinguisher spot where he sprayed the fire extinguisher out of the ambulance. They went back to the ring and did the elbow off the top rope, putting the guy through the fucking table. And they fought on the floor, went back to the ambulance. And Briscoe got the golden scissors away from Ricochet. But Ricochet found a second pair of regular colored scissors. They may not have the same amount of powers, but he stabbed him with the second scissors and threw him in the ambulance and slammed the door. Out of 16 minutes, they spent 1 minute in the fucking ring. And they did the whole garbage match deal before the garbage match that they had booked. It was the main event. Again, Brian, help me in trying to understand.
I can't. You always ask for help when you know I can't help. Was this the bloodiest match you ever saw with Mark Briscoe?
Oh, God, no. The Briscoes were, free bleeders, but it's not the point. Is not the point. Besides the fact, and here's the thing, they're stabbing each other with scissors. Later on, the plumber is going to stab Hobbs with what was apparently either a fork or some type of cutlery. And Hobbs got a little pap smear. What difference would it have made if he'd have bled out? Because you've already seen Mark Briscoe look like he's bleeding out. And he's going to come back and interfere in the garbage match.
That's right.
Without getting cleaned up in the interceding hour and a half. But the point is, it was the match before the match with the blood and the gimmicks and the not using the ring and the whole 9 yards. They can't just do one of anything, even in the same night. What about the tag team title match, Brian? Should we move on to that? The Hurt Syndicate, Dustin and Sammy. I think this was the shortest match of the night at 13 minutes, and maybe the only thing that actually accomplished anything besides repetition and boredom. But again, it illustrated this could have been a TV match. It was here so that MJF would be at ringside with the Hurt Syndicate for the first time and, further that story and get the Hurts another win, because obviously there's nobody set up to remotely even beat them. But again, this is a TV match. It's not a World Tag Team title match for a pay-per-view. But it's not like they had any other choice. There are no other teams. And I love Dustin's work, but I think this was better when Sammy was in, because the Hurts don't care how far they throw him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that in this match. I thought Shelton worked.
Well, I mean, you can't be disrespectful to Dustin, but Sammy, you can fling a ways.
Yeah, this was quick, and that was probably for the best. And I don't know who they're going to work with or where they're going to go next.
Well, finally, what happened was MJF had offered the ring, the Dynamite Diamond ring to Shelton Benjamin, but Lashley told him, hey, get down off the apron. And they went back and forth for a minute, and then MJF ended up gouging Dustin's eyes and went for the punch with the ring. But that's where Lashley stopped him and smiled at him and then speared Dustin through the rail. And then Shelton knee lift, super kick, Sammy. There you go. 1, 2, 3. So at least they have avoided this trap of thinking they need to hit people with 80 goddamn different things to beat them and killing everybody's finish in the process. But this, again, it was a TV match to further the MJF story. Nobody thought Dustin and Sammy were going to win. Nobody should have thought it. And there should be if this is their big fucking pay-per-view, why is the World Tag Team title match meaningless? You dumb shits. Sets. Final comments from you.
Who will
Brian,
stop
on
the
this
Hurt
one?
Business? Who will be able to get together, an unexpected tag team, and stop these men from conquering AEW forever?
Well, I think Vince McMahon stopped the Hurt Business, but the Hurt Syndicate, is doing.
Did I do that? That's what Jeff Jarrett did on the pre-show too.
Yeah.
They had to stop him. Sorry, guys. The Hurt Syndicate.
All right, is a monkey business now. There was a match for another title belt. What's it named? The Continental. What was the other belt they had that was along with the Continental?
The International.
Not Intercontinental, but
International.
International?
Yeah.
Do they still have that? Who's that champion?
That champion. Is it Omega?
You can't look it up. That's not fair.
I'm not looking it up. That was my pen. Who is it? Is it Omega?
I don't know. Who knows? But they had a belt. So they had a match for it. With Oblada, our friend from Japan, Oblada. That's what somebody said on Twitter. And I think I like that. Oblada, because blah. And Hong Kong Phooey. They're trolling us now, Brian. As the kids say, they are trolling. I can hear Ernie Ladd say, you're trolling me now. You are trolling Mid-South Wrestling. Why would... I don't know why you would do this, but the one little hyperactive shit can't stop moving. And the other guy is the laziest wrestler in Major League Sports.
I enjoyed this.
And what the...
I enjoyed this because, usually I don't like matches when I know, exactly who's going to win. Like, there's no chance. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be Okada winning. But watching Speedball do everything in the world to him, and Okada, at times his way of selling is just like kneeling and looking exhausted. But knowing he's going to win, and eventually, when they get there, knowing that people online are going to be like, Okada did it again! Another fantastic Okada performance! I got a kick out of this match, but Okada's a slug.
What about that one time when he wiped his brow, Brian? That's selling. I mean, that was over
selling.
The top.
Next level selling. You don't even understand the sweat.
I just watched the one kid is play acting. I mean, maybe his childhood wasn't happy. He was a lonely kid and he dreamed up this thing that he could fucking be in his mind where he's the martial arts hero of, fucking Roosevelt Elementary or something.
No, he really is a black belt, apparently.
Well, so was my cousin Larry.
In kata.
My cousin Larry was a black belt in Taekwondo.
Did he ever use it? Did he ever just throw kicks like crazy, like Speedball Bailey?
Yeah, what they tried to show us how he could break a board with a kick and missed it and kicked the foundation, broke his foot. But he was a legitimate black belt. He went through the course and everything.
Well, you pick on a lot of guys for being small, and sometimes I think it's unfair in comparison to some of the other people that are around. Sometimes it works. This guy's really small. And that's one of the reasons I got a kick out of this match was because it was just ridiculous. Because Okada's not the biggest guy, but in AEW he's pretty big, I guess.
Why, he's 6'3", according to the announcers.
But this guy's so slow. Yeah, now he's dyeing his hair. Did he dye it gray? What?
Well, yes, hold on. That's what I was going to mention. When you talk about Hong Kong Phooey being small, he's microscopic, but also he's got a head that's just a little bit too large for that small body, so it makes the body look even more comically tiny. But it's ridiculous. And with Oblada, yes, instead of being a bleached blonde now and looking like some kind of, weird Japanese club employee, now he looks like a fucking parking attendant from Sapporo. I didn't know you could dye your hair salt and pepper, because it's brown, but it looks like brown hair naturally going gray. Or has he been gone long enough that he was able to grow that out and we didn't notice it? I don't know what
it definitely goes with that new outfit of his, the oversized suit for an old man. Like, it works together.
Looks like if he was wearing waders, he'd be ready to go out fishing.
His new gimmick is he's an old fisherman from Okinawa.
But anyway, so that's the point is, this is another little video game match on the one kid's part. I think they ought to put Spitball in the women's division where it looks visually like he'd have a chance. He makes Pockets look like Stan Hansen. But he's treating it like a little video game thing. And old Okada's treating it like, I'm going to get another big check from this fucking Mark for doing as little as possible and barely hitting the mat. He's the laziest bastard in wrestling, and he reacts and falls as slowly and easily as possible. And then the babyface looks and acts like a complete douchebag. So in 15 minutes, Okada won with a shitty clothesline. He didn't cheat. He just beat him. But this kid is so obnoxious on any level. How would even the modern wrestling fan take this kid as a baby face when he's like a malfunctioning Energizer bunny at a Comic-Con?
Have you heard his promo?
No, I can only imagine that it's delivered at a tone so high that only fucking seals in the Arctic can hear it.
Well, it sounds like you've seen his promo. Yeah. My thing has been, and I've said it before, if Tony's going to sign a lot of guys that are smaller, which it'll be funny when WWE, to stop that, just start signing all these tiny guys, then he should literally just have a weight division and make it something marketable. See the young, small, tiny guys really get in there, and they're faster and quicker than those big heavyweights we don't have.
They can get into all those tight orifices, ladies and gentlemen. They're so small and tiny, they can insinuate themselves inside.
They announced him, I think, at 170. If they announced him at 170 pounds, how much does he actually weigh?
He's not as big as Brian Hildebrand. Mark Curtis for the uninitiated. And that's, again, but the thing is, it's not about the size with him. It's about the overall marketability of this annoying, obnoxious, goofy little kid that has been somehow let loose at the adults' fucking party. That he's like the annoying Comic-Con cosplayer where he's hopping around on the floor of the convention acting like Hong Kong Phooey and doing his pose with his fist in his hand, and he's got a mouth guard, which I just thought those were the whitest teeth anybody had ever come across, but apparently it's a mouth guard. But again, I see he looks like Ricky Steamboat's daughter. What the fuck? It's just.
But again, if they had a 150-pound weight division or something, and you have him, you have Orange Cassidy.
He still wouldn't be. No, put Conor McGregor in the fucking thing or whatever. He still wouldn't be an attraction at any weight. Unsafe at any speed is what this fucking guy is. The whole thing is goofiness. It's like the AEW equivalent of TL Hopper, this guy's gimmick. It's so blatantly fucking stupid. And he's hopping around with it on his bare feet. Somebody stomp his goddamn foot. Stomp his foot, kick him in the shin, grab his fucking balls. You just won the match. Would you like to talk about the next match that didn't involve any balls, Brian?
Another one of those stellar transitions. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the next match was, so I don't want to commit to anything.
Well, it was the women's title match with Toni Storm and Mina Mellons. You didn't want to see this? Is everybody involved in this hokey horse shit on the kratom, Brian? Could that explain it, that they are 80% like Jelly Nutella says, and boy, a more reputable source you've never found for information, ladies and gentlemen. You think 80% of these people are on some kind of fucking truck stop opiate that is clouding their judgment-making skills?
You know, I don't want to get bogged down with this here. We probably have to return to this on a later show, but we've actually been inundated with feedback from people pro and against it. People who say that it saved their life and they use it all the time. And then people who said, it almost destroyed my life. It's as addictive as heroin.
Literally, the next email, one email will say, I owe my life to kratom. And the other one will say, stay away from this devil's drug. It's horrible. I was addicted.
So we'll return to that. But allegedly, a lot of people may be on it.
Well, the point is, Toni Storm, okay, the people that like AEW, they love her. She's the most popular woman on the roster. I think it's so fucking over the top ridiculous that it could have been something that was cool and got the same result if they had had the rest of the world play it a little straighter and let Toni be but nevertheless. But now they're trying to build her and Mercedes Moan, but they've got to establish, you can still see Kenny's finger in the talent roster because they got to establish all these Japanese girls that have to jump around and do the whole thing for people who want to laugh at wrestling. This whole show is for people who want to laugh at wrestling. People should laugh at this show, but the problem is this show makes people laugh at all wrestling. And the only thing to me that makes Toni Storm's gimmick any worse is that fat fuck Luther that has to be comedy on top of comedy. Because everybody's got it's slapstick. It's Keystone Cops. Nobody can fucking help themselves. And so they had this match that they've built up for 15 minutes. Toni Storm hits a pile driver on her. 1, 2, 3. At least the pile driver still works on the women. And then Toni Storm was apologizing that she had to do that to her. And the girl that got pile driven in 30 seconds was okay enough to be up and kiss and make out with Toni Storm. And this audience thinks there's nothing at all ridiculous about this whole goddamn thing.
Well, I think Toni Storm is like Orange Cassidy. It's an act. It's a comedy act that they really like being into. Toni can actually work. Toni's actually one of the best women workers out there. And she's developed this gimmick. And
yes.
You know, it works for them, I guess. It doesn't necessarily work for me. Her and Monet, I am interested to see that. And
I'm afraid that Toni Storm will come out when Toni Storm compared to Mercedes Moon as far as a draw is 10-1. What little Josephine Camel will ever be.
You think Mercedes Moné may have a tractor accident before the match?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that Mercedes also has a high opinion of herself and her alleged abilities, and apparently has her own writer and her own team that can't help her when she gets lost in the woods. But I have a feeling that Toni Storm will suffer because Mercedes Moon has a bigger team and bigger pull and considers herself a bigger star. And Toni Storm is far and away the person who should win that match. But I don't see the other bitch doing the job.
All right, you really hate her. It's really coming out now.
The money that she's getting for what she's contributing and the phoniness of her and the insufferable douchebaggery of her.
You know what I just heard the other day? Hold on, I'm going to look this up to make sure I got it right. I was shocked to hear this. Do you know how old Mina Shirakawa is?
I do not have any idea.
37.
37. Well, that's a good round number to retire on.
All right, well, we're moving on now. In the old days of Japanese women's wrestling, they retired at 26. We now move on.
Yes.
To another thing here.
Another thing.
What was next on this show?
Well, I'll tell you what was next on the show. Smiley Roberts. Smiley Roberts was in the ring. And this began 45 minutes of pure indie wrestling delight. There were people with Cheeto-stained fingers and sweaty jowls and potential boils on their perineum. They were literally pleasuring themselves for the next 45 minutes when all the kids got to come out and play and have fun. And Smiley set the tone as the ring announcer. He's there in a goddamn dressed up suit, and he looks down in the front row, apparently at some child, and says, "Cover your ears," and then says, "Aw, shit." They had the ring announcer say, "Aw, shit."
He was more than happy to say it seemed.
And he's always happy. This is anarchy in the arena. Why did they have to have this fucking... The ring announcer say, "Oh, shit," because, oh, shit. This is a warning now. Get out with your sanity while you still can. What if they had told Howard Finkel in Madison Square Garden, "Howard, go out there when you plug the next card and say, oh, shit, Undertaker's back." So, and you see Finkel say,
I'm trying to hear his voice saying,
"Yes."
And
oh shit.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
It's Repo Man.
Remember. I don't remember if I ever heard Finkel say the word shit.
Whose idea was it? Was it Justin Roberts like, hey, boss, I got a great idea. Is it okay if I do this? Or was Tony like, "Listen, I got a great idea.
Yeah.
It came to me at hour 47 of my 4 days up, and here's what it is."
Well, anyway, they started the entrances. And here came Swerve out. And now he's wearing some kind of science fiction costume. Was that some recognized character, Brian, or is he just they're spending some of their extra money? Everybody's got a science fiction fucking outfit now. Did you recognize it from any pop culture, anything? Or did you pay any attention?
I didn't really pay attention to his outfit as he came out.
What about him as
their big
fiction?
thing. This is their big thing. This is like, their Grammys. Their anarchy in the arena. So that's the night you get dressed up. That's the night you go out and you get your finest shoes and suit and...
But what about Swerve's gimmick is the most dangerous man in AEW and that he does all these horrible things? What about it as science fiction? What part of him is supposed to be in a video game? But then here came Willow, dressed like Plowgirl Frazier. And that's when I realized the girls are in this match too. And of course, since they never really actually all appear in the same place at the same time, you can't really tell who's on whose team. But the girls, allegedly, till the end, were going to fight each other. But yeah, so this most dangerous match in the history of all danger, everybody comes dressed up in funny costumes, and girls can play too. And then when Hobbs and SHOPIFY came out, Samoa Joe was introduced, but he didn't come out. And actually, when the other two walked out, the people were chanting for Joe, 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 Joe. He didn't show up. He comes out later on when the fight starts. And then here came Kenny. And he came out with a garbage can, which was apropos. And the garbage can lid was painted like Captain America's shield, but with his insignia on it. And it's Halloween for all these kids. They've always dreamed of doing this. And now they have found a guy with unlimited amounts of money that will let them play like they always wanted to. And then here came Dick the Boozer and Wheeler Useless and Claudio and Marina Schaefer. They made their stagger through the crowd. And then, of course, because the EVPs are involved, they've even got more pull than everybody else. They not only get to wear funny outfits, but they get to be able to tell the ring announcer to do their own ring introduction, and they get their own silly music. And they play it's the fife and drum music because it's Memorial Day, and there's silly verbiage that's supposedly comedy, but it's not funny. But they get a kick out of it. The crowd doesn't react. And after they joke with the funny music and the overdone introduction about how these people are our founding fathers, the Buckaroos walk out dressed like Benjamin Franklin or like Jerry Seinfeld in the puffy shirt episode. And nobody cares. They're wasting minutes on this. This is this whole hokey outlaw bullshit match is the idea of these little jackoffs from Cucamonga to get attention and do anything that their little hearts can desire and think of to do because the mark is paying for it all, that was originally thought of to be the ultimate mud show bullshit to make up for and hide their shortcomings, that they can't work and they can't put matches together and they can't sell tickets on their ability. So we'll just throw a bunch of fucking bullshit out there and it'll be a spectacle and people will watch the car wreck and we can take credit for that. But now they're parodying their own parody. They're making fun of the thing that they came up with to make fun of the business and bilk the billionaire money mark. Tony not only pays for this shit, but has to pay to put it on television. And they're just jacking around.
And pay for
the music. I think it's 5 times the limit before you have to pay a significant more amount in rights fees. But so they do 12 minutes of entrances. And then the baby faces jump started. Imagine that in the entranceway. And they go to a quadruple box, not a double box, not even a triple box, a quadruple box. Brian, I have an 82-inch television. And I couldn't tell what was going on in 4 different pictures at the same time especially because they were just using 4 different camera angles, but that didn't mean that the camera that was trying to shoot whatever scene was going on was able to catch it, because they obviously hadn't blocked this thing in a professional basis. It was like, yeah, we're going to go over there and do that, and you just shoot it. So it was all over the fucking place. Joe and Claudio go out to the parking lot. They're still playing the fife and drum music. The girls are fighting each other on the floor. And then Kenny's got to be funny. And so he gets on the microphone or signals to change the music, and they start playing, "I'm so excited." And then Kenny says, no. We want some 2000s alternative rock. And they play Let the Bodies Hit the Floor 5 times through from that point on, stopping and starting it over again. Tellingly, when the music stops in between till they can re-rack it and start it again, there's usually no goddamn noise in the building. Because it sounds from my description like a lot was going on, but it's fake looking shit that you couldn't see or follow, not involving the ring. Everybody walk fighting everywhere, and that's where the group of a dozen or so security guys came in, because they would go from place to place and then stand there in a tightly packed group for somebody to jump off something into them. And then that's where Moxley was. Mark Briscoe bled to the point where you thought he'd need a transfusion in one of the preliminary matches. But Moxley is stabbing Hobbs with a fork in the head over and over and over, and almost nothing. And then the girls were in the parking lot. Willow, quote unquote, broke a bottle over Marina Schaefer's head, and she didn't go down. Did you see that part?
I did.
She didn't go down from having a bottle broken over her head. Because they wouldn't, in the movie that they're seeing in their heads that they're getting paid by this billionaire man-child to star in. So it's supposed to be dangerous, but everything looks fake. And nobody's taking it seriously. And finally, they stopped the music. As I said, maybe they got the goddamn signal they can't play it anymore. And then they chained Willow's ear to the ring post. They broke some more tables, some more pile drivers that didn't hurt anybody. Marina Schaefer was bleeding, but she was beating up the guys. And as I said, the music was helping. But after a while, everybody was just staring at this shit. Because it was on and on and on. And then at one point, Nana drove Swerve out on a forklift so he could jump off of it. And then everybody got a sleeper. And then they got out of that by getting the staple guns. And Brian, unless you use it like a brass knuckle, what good is it? Why would you staple somebody if you were in a fight with them?
You know, of the whole match and all the problems you have with it and everything, this was the stuff I had the biggest problem with, the staple gun. Not only was it stupid, but it just caused Swerve Strickland to nonstop want to stick out his tongue at the camera for the rest of the match.
Yes, because this surgeon, and by the way, when we finish reviewing the roster, we get to the S's. I think I may have already kept Swerve because he was a champion, or is he a champion of something? I'm rethinking it because he's a fucking moron. He's a stupid, stupid individual because he's always doing some shit like this. He's in a blood drinking spot where he's letting somebody here staple his tongue with a real staple gun and a real staple. And there are some weird individuals who go, oh, yeah, that's cool. No, what that is a stupid, stupid individual. And if you look up to people who staple their own tongues with a staple gun, you are a stupid, stupid person looking up at a stupid, stupid individual. It's not going to win anybody a fight. It just makes wrestling look like bite the head off the fucking chicken at the fair and get it over with. If you want to be low class, jelly Nutella, pond scum sucking sideshow freaks. But nobody used the staple gun like a brass knuckle. Everybody stapled their tongues and their titties. And then Moxley gave Willow an RKO because it's pay-per-view, so he could. And then Kenny gave Marina Schaefer that begonia suplex. But I'm thinking if Kenny did it to Marina, that can't be called man-on-woman violence, can it? In the truest sense of the word? You choose not to answer me?
I don't know why you're throwing this at me. Kenny's a man, she's a woman. It's man-on-woman violence.
Well, it's where their hearts lay. So then the Buckaroos double super kicked everybody, including Willow. Willow didn't go down from the Buckaroos double super kick. Of course, I could kind of understand that. It would have been unrealistic if she had. Hook showed up with a golf club and beat the shit out of Claudio with it and then walked out. Okay, thanks for coming down and throwing in your contribution.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. He came down with a golf club and just beat up Claudio because he had the chance, and plus his Uber was out back, so he needed to leave. They were running overtime. So then Joe got the choke on Moxley, and here came Gabe Kidd, the True Value Josh Alexander. I swear to God, why don't they just be a brother team? If you put fucking a bald guy of kind of a slim build and a fucking beard, put the headgear on both of them, you can't tell them apart. And he pile drove Kenny, and then Wheeler put tacks in Kenny's mouth and gave him a shitty knee lift that was nowhere near his mouth. But again, let's put thumbtacks in his mouth. Why? Is it they're both childish, and again, this is an audition for Jackass or whatever their modern version of it is. Hey, let's show everybody we're stupid people doing stupid shit on video, and people will notice us. And forever we'll be known as that stupid guy that did that stupid thing. And then Briscoe came in and dove in and fought Gabe Kidd, and the girls were back up and still fighting. And then they locked Moxley's group in the ambulance so Kenny and Swerve could beat up the Buckaroos. And then Nana gave Swerve a pair of tennis shoes with thumbtacks on the soles. So the Swerve could take time to...
That's, that'd be a great song title. That's deep. Thumbtacks on the soles.
Thumbtacks on the soles. He took his regular boots off and put the fucking tennis shoes with the thumbtacks on the soles on. And then Kenny gave the one-winged fairy to one of the Buckaroos off the stage onto an exploding table. It didn't really blow up like to kill all of them, unfortunately. But there was like a small amount of pyro wired to it so that when they landed and it broke in the middle, you could see the shit that was wired underneath it where it went pow, 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 pow. I swear to God, they literally put a fucking table wired with a minimum amount of pyro next to the stage for no other reason through the whole show than for them to jump off onto, just so they got to take a bump in an exploding table, Brian.
Yeah, of all the stupid things in the match, and again, I hate the thumbtacks, and there are things I really hate in the match. The random exploding table out of nowhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Who wired it? What is it doing there? Who put it there?
So we could take our bump onto it. It exists for no other purpose.
Exactly what explodes? Nothing goes in the air.
So then Swerve came off the top with a double stomp on Buck number 2 with the thumbtack shoes and covered him 1, 2, 3. And then stuck his tongue out and showed everybody the staple that was in his tongue. I want to have these people had their shots. Tetanus, rabies, malaria, AIDS, whatever the random variety of communicable disease, hepatitis. So I'm rethinking if I kept any of these fuckwits involved in this. Poor Hobbs, he just lost, trying to find a friend. But I'm rethinking it. If they would take part in this 35-minute match, 45 or more with entrances, self-indulgent, stupid, not good for the business, takes no talent, and they're all delusional. Did I cover all the high points?
It sounds like a 5-star match to me, if ever. Yeah, you covered all the points. We've seen them do their arena shows originally with no one there in the stadium.
Where, they're headed in that direction again.
Well, remember, Matt Hardy transported. Like, they've been doing this kind of stupid shit since the very beginning. I hate that fucking Let the Bodies Hit the Floor song. I know you used it for OVW. No disrespect to OVW. I hate that fucking song. And Kenny Omega called it alternative rock. That's not alternative rock in any way. What is he talking about?
Well, Kenny, there's a lot of alternatives to Kenny, but we had a nice snappy video to the song. We didn't play it for 20 fucking minutes straight while we were goddamn wandering around fucking throwing shit at each other.
Yeah, no, I hate it. I hated it when it came out. I hate it now. I can't pretend it's not an awful song. But this is what they wanted. Their big spectacle leading up to the big Texas show. Those dastardly heels were so foolish they all got locked in an ambulance. Why was the ambulance there? If the ambulance was there to... I guess it didn't take Briscoe out. It just... He was in there and then someone took him out.
And then they just forgot to move the ambulance.
Hey, we got it for the night. Why not just leave it here?
Yeah, it's not in the way or anything. It's a parody of wrestling concocted by, from the top down, kids who dreamed about doing this as children and all the cool things they'd get to do. And then suddenly somebody's plopped literally $500 million in front of them and said, okay, go ahead. And the actual profession suffers because of it, but we get this.
Well, Jim, before we plop along here, after a match like that, both the audience and the participants may either feel beat up or amped up. You really don't know. You may need some help getting to sleep. You may need a nice fizzy drink to fix things at the end of the night or perhaps in the middle of the day, whenever. I don't think there's any restrictions. Let's go to Jim before I mess this up. Jim, our good friends at Cornbread Hemp.
Well, Brian, I'm sure that later on you can screw that up even more. But right now, I'll tell you what. Here's what I vowed to do the other night on that pay-per-view for Double or Nothing. I said every time they have a good match, I'm going to sit and watch it intently. And every time they have a bad match, I'm going to take a sip of my Blueberry Breeze THC seltzer from the folks at Cornbread Hemp. And by the end of that pay-per-view, I had rewritten the entire Beatles White Album. Oh, boy. I thought I'd never come back to the ground. But you know what? Next day, I had no hangover because there's no alcohol. This is a THC seltzer that tastes and feels amazing. Perfect for the spring and summer. A low-calorie drink, 30 calories, 5 grams of sugar, but it's made with pure THC and all natural ingredients with no synthetics, no alcohol, and therefore you don't get no hangover. You don't get pulled over and taken to the Hoosgow, the Crossbar Motel. It's 5 milligrams of THC in each can, which is the perfect amount for you. And it even says on the side, Brian, well, you know this because you've consumed 1 or 4 of these. You take 1 to feel this way, you take 2 to feel that way, you drink 3 to feel that way, and about 18 on that Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Of course, that was spread over the 3 days that the show happened in. Anyway, folks, again, THC seltzers, this is the way of the future, how you can relax and feel better without all of the problems that might come with alcohol. Let's just say that.
From that great soil in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, no, it's not. The seltzer is not from the soil. It's like I got a cup of coffee.
And the CBD and everything else. It's grown.
Well, yes, but we're not just digging a well and seltzer is popping out down here in Louisville.
Oh, you said
well, us Kentuckians, the people at Cornbread Hemp,
like you
have a boy, they got it down, folks. I'll tell you what, whether all of the THC and CBD products and services that they offer with amazing professionalism and wonderful packaging, all carrying on the tradition of over 250 years of growing certain plant products in the state of Kentucky. And now the seltzers, the blueberry breeze, the peach iced tea, the raspberry limeade, the salted watermelon, no hangover. You can unwind, you can kick back, you can kick out. As a matter of fact, if anybody tries to take your seltzer away, you can kick them right up under the chin. Bam! And tip up your seltzer, and we can save you money now doing it.
Yes, we can. Let's get to that.
As a matter of fact, if you buy 4 or more of these things, then you're going to get 1 for free or 2 for free because we can save you 30%. Now, you divide 4 into 1, and that means it's 25%. So 30% is a free one or more. You see this math. Right now, 30% off your first order and free shipping on any order over $75 when you go to Cornbread Hemp. CORNBREAD, Cornbread. The way that corn and bread that are put together is spelled. Hemp.com/JCE and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get 30% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75. And boy, howdy, just sit back and sip one of these and float away on a cloud of bliss.
Blueberry bliss.
Blueberry bliss.
From our friends.
Actually, it's blueberry breeze, but it could be blueberry bliss.
You'll be in a blueberry bliss, potentially. No commitment, no guarantee, but it's great stuff. Cornbread Hemp from Louisville, Kentucky. One more time, Jim. What's that special link?
Cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at the checkout.
All right, you know what that means. It's the downbeat portion of the show, meaning everyone left the building after Anarchy in the Arena, but we couldn't. And there was more, and it wasn't even, I forgot, it wasn't even just the world title, and it wasn't even the world title. The Owen Hart Tournament Final is the main event. There was another match that I definitely didn't watch. I apologize to anyone upset I didn't watch the next match.
Well, after 45 minutes of the previous Falderall, they thought, well, this will be a good time to put a 6-man tag team match on with Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roddy Strong against Take a Shit, Josh Alexander, and our friend Kyle Felcher. And I wrote, seriously, after that? Now, even if people didn't leave you, they had to get up and piss. They had to go get a drink or something, probably eat again. I'm sure it had been days since lunch. So I can understand maybe, since all of Tony's children's angles are important, that, okay, put the 6-man tag on that absolutely nobody bought this pay-per-view to see and give them 8 to 10 minutes with entrances and have a nice match and bring the people down to some kind of baseline a little bit so you can have your main event. So instead, they had a 20-minute with entrances deal where everybody did everything. And then O'Reilly got a front face lock on Kyle, and right in front of the referee, Take a Shit just came in and hit Kyle with a fake forearm. He could have done a variety of things that looked like it made contact, but he chose that. And then Kyle just muscled him up into a brainbuster. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And by the way, Adam Cole's upper body now is so skinny, it looks like it was CGI. It looked like somebody had made a rib thing for Twitter of Adam's head on like a Halloween skeleton.
American Baby Baba.
And I mean, he's still got some, I won't say muscle, but some thickness around his thighs, thick compared to the rest of him. But the upper body, what? If he's sick, I'm so sorry, Adam. But it's like it's science fiction level shrinking. But then that wasn't it, because even though they had another match where everybody did everything and it went 20 fucking minutes and blah, 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 then the heels and Lance Archer jump in and beat up the baby faces. And then here comes Rocky Romero and Trent, and they jump on them and beat them up too. And then music plays, and Brody King and Ishii come out to the stage.
Yeah, that was a surprise, by the way. When the Hounds of Hell image hit, I was like, oh shit, Buddy's back. Hey, that's pretty cool. They're doing all this just for them. And then it was Ishii and Brody King.
Yes, because they made the Hounds of Hell, and the dogs never found hell. But then they part, and there comes Hiroshi Tanahashi limping out. He was limping before anybody touched him. And Brody and Ishii get in a big, sloppy, fake-looking fight in the entranceway with some of the heels. Tanahashi just hits one guy once and then walked to the ring. And Ishii was so crippled, he tried twice to roll into the ring and barely got it. And then somehow they dispatched the heels to where Kyle Felcher, the only one at this point in this whole fucking group of wrestlers and runner-inners that could possibly make a fuck, right? They left him to take Tanahashi's finish, which apparently is the guy running at him and grabbing him and jerking him down in a fucking heap. And then Adam Cole hit him with a knee. And off they went. So, well, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different people ran in after the match was over with. And is Tony Khan running some type of motion picture country home for disabled Japanese wrestlers?
If you were on the AEW roster and you did not do something on this event or pre-show, would you be insulted?
No, actually, I'd be relieved, to be quite honest with you, that my reputation would not be sullied by being a part of this. But I know what you're saying.
Everyone was a part of it.
I mean, why? I understand that, legends, again, I've said this a million times, legends can draw you money on nostalgia themed shows and in limited quantities where it's not every show and it's special. But these Japanese legends are completely unable to fucking perform. And it's just wishful thinking and people smoking opium. If you want to just see them in person, I'm sure there's a way to do that, but what the fuck? None of them can fucking wrestle. Ishii, Tanahashi, Oblada. It's over with. Move on. Am I being too harsh?
Not necessarily. In 2025, not necessarily at all. With Adam Cole and, to an extent, Ishii, who, although he looks like he's very old, he's not that old. But he's 5'4". And Adam Cole is 102 pounds. I don't know how much he weighs. If there was a division for smaller people, I think it would make more sense. And I know it sounds like it's a joke, but if there was a division for people can't be under 200 pounds. It has to be like under 175 pounds.
But then Ishii is over 200 pounds and the poor fella can't fucking turn his head. And Tanahashi, what's the matter with him? He doesn't wrestle here regularly, but he couldn't walk straight.
He's now the president of New Japan, I believe.
Okay, well, then let him come out in a suit and sign some contracts. You keep up better than I do. Is he crippled too?
Look, every single person that worked for New Japan during those years is banged up badly. Whether it's Okada, who may not be as banged up as bad as some of these other guys, even though obviously it's a different style he's working now. Ishii, Tanahashi's done. I mean, he's retired pretty much. But a lot of these guys, I mean, we heard again that Ibushi's training for a comeback. Naito's out. I mean, all those guys from that generation have all gone down hard. And, you know, Kenny Omega, although he got out a little earlier to go to AEW, he was there during those peak years, and he was one of those guys just killing his body. You know, it's going to be a rough time for a lot of people. And, you know, Japanese wrestling, an entire crop of like the, I guess the new legends from that previous group of people, they're all banged up really badly.
And of course, I wasn't laughing at Ibushi's misfortune. I was laughing at, I just remembered that Tony Khan is still paying him. He signed him to a contract because he was Kenny's friend. And before the guy had ever done anything, he broke both his ankles spectacularly, underwent multiple surgeries. And it's been, what, a year and a half? Well, remember, and I think he signed to a 2 or 3 year contract.
He was with, I don't even know if it's technically NXT. When WWE did their cruiserweight, it wasn't cruiserweight, light heavyweight classic, world cruiserweight classic, whatever it was, and they had all these people that were on the indies at that time before AEW, they got Ibushi. And he was jacked. He was ripped. He was cut. Did all this impressive stuff. The next time I see him on American TV on AEW, he's completely out of shape. Looks like he doesn't know where he is. So then you're like, okay, let's see the work. And then the work wasn't there. And then he got a contract. And then he went home. And then like on some indie show or whatever he was working, he broke both of his feet. And that was the last we heard of him. But he may be coming back. That whole generation of Japanese wrestlers, they beat up their body and they're paying the price a little younger than a lot of people used to.
Well, no, now they beat up their body and now Tony is paying the price. And they're spreading the word. Hey, we got a fucking great deal over here. Anyway, speaking of great deal, we've had a great deal of talk to get to the main event for the Owen Hart Tournament Cup and the chance to face the world champion Dick the Boozer of the Boar Horsemen at the Stadium Show in Texas. Hangnail Adam Page and Will Ospreay. And I'll save the finish, but boy, howdy. When you thought they were going to do something that made some sense and everything pointed to it, that flies out the window. So the main event started, the entrances started 3 hours and 40 minutes into the pay-per-view. And they gave Ospreay an entrance with stained glass and lighting effects and his voiceover playing in the arena, echoing the nonsense promo that they did last week of, I am the greatest, prove to you.
You weren't lying. You said that Dave Meltzer said it, and I hadn't read anything that he had reviewed about it yet. It's not just him. There is a fan base who believe that was like one of the greatest promos of all time, one of the greatest face-to-face segments ever. That's amazing. That was awful. And endless.
Well, it wasn't the I have a dream speech, but they played it here like it was.
It was the I have a drink speech.
And I think he had another, because here he came, Ospreay and Lyric Valkyrie or whatever are going to the same costumer. They come out in feathers. They should be quacking. Look like when Jimmy Hart had to wear the San Diego Chicken outfit. So they ring the bell for this match, and suddenly, after 4 hours of complete shit, 2 guys are trying to wrestle. Everybody's tired. After everything has been proven to be phony, cartoon bullshit, then they go out there and they start trying to have a match to the best of their ability, and I will put it over. As far as physically, these are two of the better and more credible guys in the ring on the roster. Both of them can do nice spots. Both of them need somebody else leading the match to put together something that doesn't reek of indie and is, a higher level. Ospreay has the problem with the voice, and the more that you hear him talk, the less you like him, but he's got fire. He could be produced. And unfortunately, Page, I think he's a shit promo and you don't believe him. He doesn't seem to have a pleasing personality to begin with. He was never a smiling babyface, except when he was interacting with the goddamn job guys in the Dork Order. But he's like a lot of these guys. You like him until you know him better and realize that he's a douche in real life. But they had a higher level of athleticism and professionalism in executing the moves here to where that you wouldn't be embarrassed to show somebody this like you would the Anarchy in the Arena match or some of their other goofball indie shit, thumbtacks, whatever. But still, this match, as a pay-per-view main event, if you want to see a banger of a match after 4 fucking hours of other alleged bangers, then that's what they give you here. But as a money-drawing money match on a program, if they're going to do babyface and babyface, these guys aren't really smart enough to have that match. They just do their moves back and forth to each other, regardless of who's supposed to be a babyface or a heel, or a babyface or a babyface. It's going to be the same thing. Verbally, as we've seen, they can't cut the promo. This is for people who want to see guys do moves and talk about who's going to be the one to be the greatest of all time and it works harder than the other guy, bruv. And so, but they did it over and over for 40 fucking minutes to the point where nothing beats anybody. And then they take you out of the athletic presentation because it's so ridiculous. And that's the thing when we did the talent roster and or part of it so far, and people say, oh, he won't keep Kenny. How dare he? And like Kenny, the people like him and blah, blah, blah. He won't keep Kenny. I said, well, between Kenny and Ospreay, you've got 2 trained chimpanzees doing the same tricks. So you keep the younger, fresher chimpanzee. And that's Ospreay, who I believed until I saw different that was going to win this thing and go on to win the title in the stadium. Because it made the most sense, because which is probably why it's not happening. But between, as I said, Kenny and Ospreay here, how, if you're looking ahead to build a roster 2, 3 years, 5 years, how could Kenny help a wrestling promotion? Wrestling, as he's older, he's had bad injuries, and his matches always looked like he was playing a video game. And Ospreay, at least, is fresher and younger and more accomplished and less overly douchey with the pointing and the face making and etc. But could Kenny help in other ways? Promos? He can teach people to do promos or do promos. Have you ever, Brian, call me a great Kenny Omega promo?
No, I've actually always told you I like him in the ring, and I'm not a fan of his promos at all. I think they're counterproductive.
Wishy-washy, counterproductive. You don't want to hear him because he's a douche. Could he do commentary? Can you imagine that, Brian? Could he step into the announcer's booth?
I think he's done it a couple times. No, not good.
a producer or an agent, he can't put his own matches together. The last thing he'd want is he's putting somebody else's together, because then you get more of the goddamn video game shit. As a talent scout, he's a shit talent picker, obviously. Anybody remember Michael Nakazawa? Or the Japanese indie girls that he has spent Tony Khan's money on ad nauseum over the last 6 years. That's his talent eye. As a trainer, he's been involved in the most disrespectful bullshit that has ever been done in wrestling, especially over the last number of years. He's been an embarrassment from the start with the sex dolls and the 8-year-old girls. And the last thing that you would want is this bitch teaching young wrestlers how to not respect the business. Now, Ospreay, I don't know that he's any different, because he actually said in that interview here recently, well, bruv, AEW smokes the WWE in every aspect of wrestling, except the part about making money and getting big numbers of people to watch it. But because he's of that mindset that, oh, we've got to do the poison rana, mate. But he's 10 years younger and he's a lot newer, and maybe you could teach him something. But now that I'm going to tear down what they did with this, I want to say that this match by far was not perfect. But at least to show it to somebody, you wouldn't be embarrassed. They're athletic. The shit's crisper. They didn't use furniture to the ridiculous degree. There were no scissors, phony props, exploding shit. With this, there's something you could build on, the sports-based presentation that we were promised at the beginning with athletes. But the problem becomes that you have athletes with minds like these guys that can't get them out of the indie level bullshit and into the greater world. And also, after 4 hours of the other shit has taken the wind out of everything, for them to go out there and go 40 more fucking minutes and kick out of every goddamn thing in the world. They've got a story that's the same as every other indie fucking match story. I'm the greatest, hardest worker. No, it's me. Let's fight. And
I want you at your best. I want you at your best.
Yes.
Make sure you train and get 8 hours of sleep.
And they don't even have misunderstandings. They don't get the message wrong, or somebody misinterpreted something. They just, we haven't done this one yet, so let's book it. So at 25 minutes into the match, I'm going to go through some of the high points. 25 minutes into the match, Ospreay gives Page a power bomb on the apron, and then Styles clashes him off the apron onto the floor. Now, they didn't land just flat, but as a matter of fact, Ospreay could have blown his own left knee out the way he landed if he hadn't been lucky. But then they sold that. Ospreay rolled in at 8. Page got up and rolled in at 9.5. Ospreay hits a big Cody cutter on him. 2 count. And then Ospreay hit his elbow finish. 2 count. After the guy's been Styles clashed off the apron onto the floor. And hit with 2 different finishes. 2 count. And then Ospreay beats up on Adam Page, and the referee pulls him back and they argue. And then Ospreay boots Page off the apron onto the desk, bashes his head on the desk, goes for a pedigree on the desk. Page tries to backdrop him, and the desk breaks out from under him, and they fall on a heap, and Page falls on top of Ospreay. So then, after they sell it for a while, instead of moving on, Page picks Ospreay up and dead-eyes him on the wreckage to let everybody know what they were trying to do before the table didn't cooperate. And now, bear in mind, both of these guys, in talking about this match, called Styles Clash off the apron, and then 15 more minutes of match, and somebody let him do it. So at that point, now Page is fine, and he went for the buckshot, but Ospreay fell, And, so he couldn't deliver it. But then Ospreay stood up and pulled off his elbow pad. Like, I'm taking off the gloves now. So then Page pulled off his elbow sleeve. And they're like two gunfighters facing each other out in the street at high noon. The problem is Page is ready to do the buckshot, and to do his move, Ospreay has to run at the guy and put his elbow up and hit him with it. Well, when they both charge, Page hits the buckshot, but fucking Ospreay had just run right into it. He didn't try to do the elbow and cover, 2 count, and then Tony Schiavone said, well, it looked to me like Ospreay just ran right into it. Because I think Taz was trying to say he didn't have time to draw his elbow back or whatever, trying to cover. And Tony said, well, to me, it looked like he just ran right into it. So then Page tried another buckshot, and when he landed, Ospreay hit his elbow, and for the first time ever, that elbow looked great because the guy was standing on his feet and had a way to take a fucking bump. But then he's spinning suplex 2 count. Then Ospreay went for the elbow while Page was on his knees, and Page collapsed, and Ospreay went over the top of him with the elbow, and Ospreay sold missing the elbow. Why? And then I wrote, if Ospreay doesn't win this soon, he's dead. He's done everything. He's done everything he knows multiple times to Page. Page is not only as over as he's ever going to be, he's not as over as he once was, and Ospreay still has a chance to be the guy. That's what I'm noting here. And then Ospreay spins forever while his opponent is helpless, pointing at him to now try to start impersonating fucking Kenny. And he hit Kenny's knee. He did it better than Kenny does. Then he picked him up for the one-winged fairy like Kenny does. But Page slipped out of that and dropped fucking Ospreay on his head. Cover, 1, 2, leg on the ropes. I wrote more ? And then finally, each one of them foiled the other one. And Page, out of nowhere, hit a buckshot lariat cover. 1, 2, 3. They beat Will Ospreay. Page is the one who gets the title match with Moxley. Page can't win the title, then we're just in as shitty a place as we are with Moxley. A fucking guy that's not over, that nobody gives a shit about, that can't fucking talk, has the title again. And why do this to Ospreay? He did everything he knows, and he can't beat this guy. He can't beat Adam Page. How is he ever going to be the guy when he can't beat this guy? 40 minutes, bell to bell, plus entrances. And they beat Will Ospreay with Adam Page in a babyface match, fair and square. So maybe Ospreay doesn't have to worry about that fucking long flight every week too much longer, because there's not going to be that much call for his services after another babyface withstood everything he could possibly do for 45 fucking minutes and then beat him without cheating. 1, 2, 3. Jesus H fucking Christ.
Well,
are you still there?
Yeah, 2 questions for you. 1, what do you do now with Moxley versus Adam Page? And 2, hypothetically, because we don't know what Tony Khan thinks about all this, Will Ospreay's been a really great cheerleader for the company publicly, and he's also complained about his flights because he doesn't want to move over here. Are you hesitant as a promoter, as a booker, to make someone your top guy if they won't come live over here in the States? Does it matter?
He's been there for a year or whatever, and it hadn't mattered so far. They don't run house shows. As a matter of fact, I think that Sometimes maybe the less you see of Osprey, definitely the less you hear of him, the better the idea is in your head. But why spend all this money? Why sign the guy? Why they think they've pushed him? They don't realize they've kind of buried him too, but they haven't buried him as badly until now as all the other guys on the roster. You're paying him a couple $1,000,000. All he has to do is come to work once a week, maybe. And he's fresh and he's athletic and he could be the guy instead of, again, this, what did Punk call him? Empty-headed dipshit Adam Page, that boring shit over and over again. Or Moxley has ruined the world championship in this company, if that's even possible. And you buy his 3 high-priced acquisitions at the same time, as I recall, were Osprey, Mercedes, and Okada, right? They all at pretty much the same time.
Yeah.
So 2 of those have been a drastic, fucking abysmal failure, Mercedes and Okada. But you had a chance to make your money back on this guy. And now not only can't he beat the fucking top heels, he can't beat the other fucking baby face that ain't going to do any business for you that you ain't already doing. The people that are going to come and pay to see Adam Page are already coming to pay to see everything else. He's part of the package with that base audience. But you could market. Fuck. I don't care anymore. Do what you want to do, Tony. But this, what the fuck? Pay all these guys to millions of dollars to, in Okada's case, have lazy, nothing matches. In Mercedes's case, have her diddle the little man in the boat for herself all across your programming because she thinks she's a goddamn superstar. She's Madonna or something. That's been rotten. And the one guy that you could actually use that you could get something out of, you've completely dumbed him out of goddamn position. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's interesting if they did all this for Adam Page. But we'll see what happens at Osprey, and we'll see what happens at All in Texas. That was AEW Double or Nothing. What if Tony Khan took some of this money that he spends on wrestlers and just went to the Shop app and supported small businesses all across the land? That would be a wonderful thing. What if he had a business? I guess he does. What if he had a business that people wanted to give him money to? And he had product to sell? He may want to set up an online store with our friends at Shopify.
Well, you know what he ought to do is he ought to sell, although again, I guess then they'd bring him in for human trafficking. He ought to sell some of the wrestlers on his roster he's not using. Certainly he could give people discounts, but folks, again, if you have a business, then Shopify can help you. But you know how Shopify can help you even more? If you don't have a business, if you've got an idea or a dream, like Tony Khan once had, if Tony Khan had gone to Shopify, well, then right now, instead of us screaming, please, Tony, stop this, we'd be doing that because he'd be making all kinds of money with a quality product and a successful platform on which to market said product, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States. Guess who's on top of it? Shopify. And they're holding it like a stranglehold. And they're increasing their reach. They're spreading over the land like a pestilence, and soon, all of it, Brian, every e-commerce platform will be all Shopify. Ha ha ha! From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started like McFuneral's Peter Parlor. What if you can't design a website, folks? Well, Shopify's got you with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. If you need a hand with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, you know they could airbrush a picture of your wife. It looks like she doesn't have that wart on her left cheek. They enhance product images. They write product descriptions. They can write a description to your wife that would make even her sound appealing.
Listen, I don't know what you're focusing on here, but
and they can generate discount codes for your wife, apparently, if you'd like to market her.
You can market your wife. That's against the rules and the protocols of Shopify. But if you have products you're allowed to sell legally that you have the rights to or have made yourself, Shopify is there for you.
I read it in a mirror and got it backwards. They generate discount codes for your wife to save money with Shopify's AI tools that are created specifically for commerce. That's why they only use the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills, ladies and gentlemen. What if people haven't heard about your brand? Well, Shopify will help you find your customers with easy email and social media campaigns. Everybody will know about you. They're going to stand on the top of large buildings and downtowns all across the country and scream your name, as well as possibly some of the things that you've been accused of, unless you sign up right now. And what if you get stuck? Well, Shopify is always around to share advice because of their award-winning 24/7 customer support. But if you don't take their advice, well then, if you won't listen, we can't help you. But right now, you can turn those dreams that you've had of being a successful entrepreneur and working out of your home and telling other people what to do on a daily basis, including possibly members of your own family. And hearing that noise a lot, you can do all those things.
Yeah.
With Shopify. And right now, if you sign up for your $1 a month trial period, then Shopify can show you all the things they can do to you, and you can start selling or do to you or for you, do around you. They'll do some things in your presence, and you will start selling today. Go to shopify.com/JCE for a $1 a month trial period. Again, websites, product descriptions, email and social media campaigns. They're going to start your business from scratch, and they're going to run it till the wheels fall off. And then you're going to be rich and successful and retired on a deserted island until one of these days they'll call you back into service, and you will, because of the little nodule implanted at the base of your skull, you will have no choice but to come back. But right now, it's just $1 a month for the trial period. Shopify.com/JCE.
That's right. They power our store. We have brand new Lazy Booking shirts up right now, ArcadiaVanguard.com, or on the Shop app. Just look for it. Shopify.com/JCE.